Thank you. Roland Bubba Grimes here on the Roland Grimes, not just sports and entertainment show. For those of you who are just tuning in for the first time, we're taping live from the Society Lounge here in Silver Spring, Maryland. We have a lively crew here tonight. And as always, I want to reintroduce my co-host, Mr. Wilbur Skipper, but he just happens to be in the bathroom right now. So I'm not going to disturb the man while he's on the throne handling his affairs. So I'm going to have to do this solo for the first time in a long time. Hey, folks, with me right now is a gentleman who, in my estimation, is one of the greatest athletes to ever come out of the Washington, D.C. area. Now, I've been around many great athletes, and I've had a chance to play both in college and in high school with some fantastically gifted individuals. But this particular young man, as far as I'm concerned, kind of set the mark when we were growing up. Ladies and gentlemen, he is a legend here. As we say legend, this is the truth, in the Washington, D.C. area in basketball. Do me a favor, put your hands together for Mr. Anthony JoJo Hunter.
How you doing?
All right. Now I had to ask him off camera what his first name was because all we knew was JoJo. Now tell the truth, man. Did we take the name Anthony off your birth certificate and just left you with JoJo? Or when you sign your name, do you still put Anthony on it from time to time?
Officially, it's Anthony Hunter, but known in Washington, I'm known as JoJo Hunter.
All right, so your official birth name is Anthony Hunter.
Exactly.
All right, so I'm going to stick with the Washington theme, and I'm going to call you JoJo. JoJo, look, where did you play college ball?
University of Maryland for 2 years, and 2 years to finish up a 4-year career at University of Colorado.
University of Colorado, Buffaloes.
Buffalo.
All right, so now, correct me if I'm wrong. The difference between College Park, Maryland, and wherever the heck Colorado is like light years in terms of culture, people, places, and things. What do you see as the biggest differences between playing and going to school at the University of Maryland and playing and going to school at University of Colorado?
Well, Maryland at that time was a school who was at the level of a UCLA.
Okay.
Coach,
big time.
Coach Rizal had the school on a level of UCLA at that time. The top schools in the 70s and 80s was UCLA, Notre Dame, Marquette, DePaul, yes. North Carolina. So he had the university at a level like that. Colorado, on the other hand, was a football school.
Big A.
Exactly. A football school who was in a conference with Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Nebraska, who was powerhouses, and the school was searching to get a good basketball program.
Now, what made you, since it was a football school, what made you decide to invest your last 2 years there as opposed to some other place?
Well, I first tried to go to UNLV, and I went out there. I would have been a red shirt. I wasn't able to get a scholarship that first year, so I worked in the Flamingo Hotel at that time for Dean Martin, and it just got kind of worried just trying to pay for my own education. Right. So I ended up transferring to University of Colorado through Larry Brown, and he was coaching the Nuggets at that time, and his personal friend was Bill Blair. He's a former Washington Bullet coach, and they were personal friends, and I went out to the school and visit, and Terry Truax, which is a former Washington DeMatha high school coach, he had recruited Tony Ellis, Justin Ellis, and Joe Washington from his area. So I ended up going to Colorado based upon the few guys that was there from Washington and Coach Terry Truax.
Okay. Now, on the court, what was the competition like playing in the Big 8 versus, I guess, it was still an ACC at that time, correct? Yeah. What was the biggest difference in competition?
Well, the ACC at that time was the #1 conference in the country.
Okay.
And Colorado was #1 as far as football as the conference. But basketball-wise, they had some great teams in the conference. Kansas State had Ronaldo Blackman. K-State, Kansas had Donnell Valentine, and K-State had
Ronaldo Blackman.
Ronaldo Blackman. Missouri had Steve Sapanovich, and it was some great players in the league. You know, so to be in a conference like that and play against some of these guys, it was at that level, but ACC was just the best at that time.
Okay, Mackin High School, right?
Yes.
So now, you born and bred in the Chocolate City.
Exactly.
So then you go to the mountains of Colorado. The people look a little bit different there than they do in D.C. So how was that transition for you?
To me, actually, Colorado is really a pretty place to be. The campus is the whole town of Boulder.
Okay.
And like you say, College Park, you know, you have the DMV, as they say now, around college. But when you go to Boulder, when you come in to Boulder from Denver, the school is the whole town. So it's a great atmosphere. It's, like I say, it's a football school that's converting college basketball for the uprising of the school. So, you know, I think since I've left, they got about 6 or 7 guys who alumni of the school that's in the pros. Number 1 right now would be Chauncey Billups. Right. He went to Colorado. Jay Humphreys went to Phoenix. Okay. So it's a few guys in the league that came from the school.
Okay. Now, after Colorado, what was your next step?
I got drafted by Milwaukee. I had maybe 50-some games with Milwaukee before I got cut. Played several years in the CBA, trying to get back in the league. Had a tryout from the Wizards, Boston, and Detroit.
It was the Bullets back then, though, right?
Exactly. Okay. And I did that campaign for 5 years, and then I played 10 years overseas.
Okay. And what part of the world overseas?
Israel, Spain, Philippines, Belgium, Brussels, Paraguay, Venezuela, Caracas, number of places.
How was that experience?
Great. Well, you know, you get to see different cultures and different ethnic groups, foods, traveling with guys from other universities. So, you know, it was a great experience.
All right, who cooked the best chitlins, Israel or Venezuela?
Well, I haven't been a meat eater for quite some time,
Okay.
But the food was, you know, all exotic food. Every place that I've been specialized in some type of seafood or fish, and that was basically what, you know, what I ate then and what I try to eat now.
Okay. All right, super. So we know now that JoJo is getting off of the meat. He's doing the fish and eating the veggies. Obviously, that's a hit to me because he's trying to help me look as good as he does in a minute. Hey, folks, Roland Bubba Grimes getting back to you in a few minutes. Sit tight.
Hello, my name is Dr. Arthur McClinu. I've dedicated my life to providing surgical care to patients with heart disease. My life began in the slums of Soweto in South Africa, where I learned to overcome adversity and illnesses, including the death of my best friend. That's why I want to be a resource for you and your family for consultation related to heart and cardiovascular needs. You can learn more about me by visiting my website, which is at zuluchesskata.com.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the Roland Grimes, not just sports and entertainment show. Shooting here live at the Society Lounge with my good friend, Mr. Anthony JoJo Hunter. JoJo, let's talk about the future. 2013, what kind of world are you shaping, or are you trying to shape for JoJo Hunter from this time moving forward?
At this point, I think the town is making a drastic change, which is, I think, is positive. I think, as far as the African Americans here, we need to get back to, you know, the way we grew up. You know, with the rec centers, the Boys and Girls Clubs. I think we took a drought in sports, and I think sports is a way to develop men and women. The winning and losing is something that we need to get back to through sports, because it's a metaphors for life. You know, a lot of the clubs that was open when I came up are closed now.
They're not there anymore.
You know, everything is LA Fitness, not taking away from none of these places, but when I came up, we could go anywhere to play. Langley Recreation, we had Edgewood, We had New Jersey Avenue, number 2 Broads Club, number 10. Most of these places changed now, so in the future, I would like to try to do something other than the AAUs, which took it over some of the sports, and maybe introduce some other programs that could integrate the kids back into the sports and shaping people here in Washington under that metaphor again of winning and losing through sports.
Right. Now, the life lessons that you learn from winning and losing in sports, how important do you see that? How important is that to our development as a community and to our development as a people?
To the community, I think perseverance is one. It's been said that only 1% of us get to the NBA.
Right.
And we also need to know that we all can get a college education, and which should be the B plan to a solution of the community. If you can get a scholarship to go to a school and you're not successful in the sports, you can get a degree, which will further your education as a growth in education and a person. So, the ball has stopped bouncing for me, but I use my education through University of Maryland and Colorado to further my life. So that's a plan that we need for pretty much everybody in society today.
Now, I'm not sure what it's going to take politically or economically to resurrect some of these community-based programs like you're talking about, the rec centers, the clubs. I don't know. Land doesn't shrink and sometimes money don't grow. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there. But what kinds of things can we do in lieu of that? I mean, if we're not able to create some more of these rec centers, if we're not able to take it back to the way it was in the 70s when we were coming up, what kinds of things do you think we can do right now to help supplant some of that and still get some of those winning and losing lessons out there, even if we can't play the way we used to?
The nonprofit organizations are the way for the future now. Some of the programs that's out, some of them are geared towards the youth, but we just need more programs which are established by some new mentors.
Gotcha.
A lot of mentors have gone and they've gotten older, and these people need to be replaced. Right. I think some of the programs will be accepted by some of these organizations and entities that are upon us now. We just need more mentors and a way to bring the communities as well as the kids together.
Right. And we need to do that nationwide.
All over
the place. Okay. Now, some of the skills that you have off the basketball court. You talked about going to University of Maryland, University of Colorado, getting your education. Obviously, when the basketball stopped bouncing, you had to do some other things. Tell me about some of those other skills that you developed along the way that help position you for life after basketball.
Well, I've been doing some motivational speaking to some kids to try to keep them on the right path because the way society is now, we can all get frustrated. The youth, the adults.
Roland GRIMES?
Exactly. We get frustrated, and we could go down the wrong path.
Okay.
And I think to create some more programs where we have people that have experience passing on to the young guys. I've done paralegal work. I've done motivational speaking. I have a basketball camp that I have in Tacoma Langley Parks and Planning, where I teach kids conditioning and skills every weekend, and I also talk about life skills, life after basketball. So I'm lending myself back and giving myself back to the community because these things was awarded to me, and I turned out to be a pretty good person as well as a basketball player, and that's what I like to give back to the community.
Okay, now you have a storied history in this area, and you folks all over the land, you'll be able to read about it, you'll be able to connect to them through the show and through some other mediums. When you talked a little earlier about some of those frustrations that can lead to the wrong path,
right.
What suggestions or what recommendations do you have for us as we start to get frustrated? Now, I have to deal with my co-host, Mr. Self Palmer, Wilbur Skipper. So every time I get frustrated and I'm ready to tear something up, Skip comes in and he reminds me of all the great things I have going on in my life, and then I just want to hurt him. However, these frustrations can take us over the edge. In your journey, what have you learned, and what would you pass on to us to say, look, when you're at this point, at that breaking point, whether it's economically, politically, socially, whatever, how do we make decisions moving forward so we can maintain our civility and our freedom?
Well, I'll say the first thing, prayer. Second thing I would think would be for me is thinking. We all have to face circumstances, situations, and choices and decisions, whether it be sports or life. And through prayer and through talking to people that's positive, you can pretty much find a good map quest or guide to become successful, or at least partially successful in what you're trying to do. I mean, this is a way of dealing with things, you know, and we deal with reason rather than impulse. You know, I think we'll survive.
Okay. The reason versus impulse. Now, I pick up the newspaper every day. I'm watching TV like most people, and I'm seeing us as a society making a whole bunch of decisions on impulse rather than reason. Now, you've done some reading, and you've done some studying, you've done some praying. When that thing happens, how does one call on reason versus impulse automatically, or is it something that we need to shut down, stop, count to 10, go backwards? What is it, how is it that you see us being able to manage this process, man, of impulse versus reason?
Well, it's a value system.
Okay.
You know, what's worthy of you acting on either entity.
Okay.
You know, if something more important than the other, something that has to be touched right away, that's where the reason and the impulse come in. Some things you can walk away from that might not have value, and some things you have to reason with. Some things you have to, that's where basketball makes things the winning and losing. You want to win gracefully and you want to lose humbly. And that's pretty much where you want to live life.
Super. Hey, folks, we're going to take a station break, pay some bills. Roland Bubba Grimes and Roland Grimes, Not Just Sports and Entertainment Show, here with JoJo Hunter, Society Lounge. Sit tight. We'll be right back. Thank you. Thank you, folks. Welcome back to Roland Grimes, Not Just Sports and Entertainment Show with JoJo Hunter here at Society Lounge. JoJo, when we took a break, we were talking about making decisions, impulse versus reason, the psychology behind it, how athletics plays into winning and losing. You, in your history, encountered some situations where you had to make some decisions. And some of those decisions, as you look at them now, afforded you an opportunity to do what you wanted to do, and some of those decisions may have hindered. Tell us a little bit about some of those decisions.
Well, I think during the course of my basketball career, I was awarded a lifestyle that afforded me to do things, whatever I wanted to do. I played sports from 1971 to 91. So I had a long lifestyle during the course of that time that afforded me to be able to do what I wanted to do. At one point in my life, I made a bad decision that led me to be incarcerated for somewhat 18 years. And during the course of that, I was able to think about the situation, what I had done, and paid my debt to society. I thought God pulled me through, and I have a lovely wife who stuck with me and kept me in prayer. And I think from that time there, I've learned to be in a place in my life where I can look back on my journey in basketball and go back to winning and losing. I thought I won because God awarded me to be able to come back out again and take my situation and pass it on.
Now that transition from incarceration back to society, quote unquote back to society, what lessons from incarceration are you bringing into this journey back into society that you didn't have before you went through that experience?
Well, I think I had it before. I just didn't exercise it.
Do tell.
I think now exercising it through prayer, exercising it with my wife, standing beside me, and trying to pass it on to some of the younger people that might encounter some of the same challenges that I did. I think that's my calling right now.
Now, part of your motivational speaking includes passing that information on to the youngsters.
Exactly. Just yesterday, I spoke at the First Baptist Church in Capitol Heights, and we had about 100 kids there. And I talked about my story. I spoke at Kemp Baptist Church in Landover. And the reception of where I've been and what I've done has been great, because there are going to be other people that come and do the same things that I've done.
Now, 18 years is a large chunk of life, as I see it. However, as I look at you now, you're living and breathing on forward. You talk about prayer, you talk about your wife. How has the community responded to you since you came back?
I don't have any complaints, because reception has been fairly well. I've been awarded to be able to talk to some kids about the situation. I've been awarded to come on your show, Ben Harris, Coach Butch McAdams, been on Channel 7. I look forward to doing something with Upscale Magazine. 3030 is going to do something basically on my life story. I have a book coming out. Working on a foundation to help kids to stay on the right path, teaching conditioning skills, basketball-wise, every weekend, and I'm looking forward to continuing to talk to kids. So I'm trying to give back. Incarceration put me at this point with the basketball wanted me to get to that point. The mistake was made was a mistake. And I'm using this time now that I have that I was awarded to correct that and give it back to you.
Well, I'll tell you what, I received an email and I got a phone call from someone very dear to me, actually my brother, and he said to me several months ago, he said, man, you have to be JoJo running for the show. And I wasn't sure how to get there. I knew I had Skip and some other people around, who kind of traveled some of the same circles of basketball. I gave it up after my junior year when Adrian Branch dumped on me, so I had to stick with football. But I've also been away from the area for a number of years, living in Syracuse, shoveling snow, and the things we do up there. But I wanted to make that connection because someone dear to me said, this is someone who means a whole lot to a whole lot of folks around here. And I remember sitting in my living room watching him play for the University of Maryland. And I remember, Larry Boston, Steve Shepard, or something like that name. And of course, I had a wristband like Larry Boston, and I used to talk trash like some of you guys did. And I remember Warren Brown passed away unexpectedly. So, the University of Maryland has an extraordinary history in the game of basketball. When you went there, and as you talk about it today, what does the University of Maryland Terrapin basketball program mean to JoJo Hunter now, and what did it mean to him then?
Well, when I first went there, like I said, it was probably the biggest school on the East Coast. So I was looking forward to just being a part of that program and representing DC at a school in Maryland that was, a big school. I've been awarded to go to 2 games at this new Comcast Center. And I think myself and some of the former players, John, Tom McMillan, Ernie Graham, Billy Bryant, Turk Till, some of the guys that played there helped to put this new Comcast Center together from when we played at Cole Fieldhouse. So I went to see Ernie Graham play him to be honored and honorary captain when they played NC State, where he scored 25 points. My first time was there at the game, and it's a great place to be in. It's a good environment. So I was glad for the university and the kids was able to play their game. It's a great atmosphere.
Hey folks, Roland Bubba Grimes, look, this is one of those situations where I realize that there's no way that I can give JoJo Hunter and the people around here. My cousin Mark Nickens, who played at American University and also went to Mackin High School, and some of the other beautiful people in the audience. There's no way I can do this the justice that it deserves. However, I figured we had to start somewhere. So right now, when you see this online, you get a chance to connect with JoJo Hunter in a special kind of way. He had a chance to talk in his own voice. All I was here to do was facilitate and make sure that the world had a chance to see this man in the way that we saw him growing up. Ladies and gentlemen, humbly, Roland Bubba Grimes, I say goodbye to you at this moment, and we'll see you soon from the Roland Grimes, Not Just Sports Entertainment Show. Good night, God bless.
Based on your recollection of dunks, how many people have you dunked on in your career? And who's the tallest?
I think this guy Mark from Good Counsel. 7-foot guy from Good Counsel.
Was he receptive?
Go ahead, Mark.
It's been a while, but I've followed your career for quite a long time. And the one thing that I want to know is, everybody know about the crossover. When you shot the jumper, you always finish with a little twist. Where did the twist come from?
I guess trying to perfect my follow through, and you know, just it comes with the habit. I guess an enjoyment of, you know, some form of perfection. So I got one. Cricket got some too.
I got one for you. I got one for you.
I got one.
Do you remember when we beat you in junior high school?
Yeah.
That's all I got to say. Yeah, I had to bring him down now.
How you doing, man? Huh? How you been? Glad to see you, man.
Did you have a question, Barry?
I got one.
My man.
Back today, that crossover in today's NBA, that would be like a carrot. Like I used to have. You can cross over on dudes up here, like cat, and then pull up on it. That was like a phenomenal.
That's right. That's a big time move, man. I just got away with it.
Right, exactly.
Anybody else have any questions? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to this way. Joe, one quick. Who was the nicest guard you played against in high school back in the day?
That was me and Frank.
Mark said Mark.
I said cricket. Cricket wasn't. I used to come up with Kelly and play against Cricket and Shirley now. I also would say Baby and Stacey Thompson.